Well, hey, thanks, Ed, for being willing to chat this morning. We've already been talking a little bit about how I should have hit record before because our conversation's already been really interesting. But yeah, we've danced in the mutual world. I think at one point we were working in the same building in Minneapolis at United Health Group. But yeah, would love to have you kind of just give a brief overview of who you are, what you've been doing, what you're doing now.
Sounds great, Jacob. Great to be here. Pleasure to be with you. So yeah, Ed Boudrot. I currently run a company called Human Ignition, and come from a background of startup companies in the Boston area. Three of them, two successful, one failure. Learned a lot from all of that, and then to your point, Jacob, joined a few Fortune companies. So Intuit Innovation Labs was one of them, and then UHG was another, which we share a bunch of common connections with.
That's awesome. That's cool. And tell me about your current company. What are you trying to do with that?
Yeah, so current company really enabling leaders at their highest level of performance. So think about almost operating system, which is internal operating system. It's how I operate as a leader. The team operating system, which is things like radical candor, what language do you use among teams? And then enterprise operating system to me is how do you actually push ideas or innovation? So things like the 10 types of innovation, there's a structure that really helps you do that. And then lastly, world operating system, which is are you doing good in the world? So that's how I think about human ignition is all kind of that full vector of inside to outside.
That's awesome. So with those operating systems, is that like, kind of EOS parallel where it's, hey, here's the types of meetings you should be having, the types of things you should be looking through, or is it more at a uh, kind of a framework level?
Yeah, I would say a framework level. So, if I think about any of the operating systems, I have frameworks behind them that are, how do you understand yourself would be inner operating system. And then, thinking about teams, how do you operate as a team? I think leadership language is a good example there where it's, instead of saying no, but how might we? Or yes, and all the things that we know. But if you don't think about those things, then the dynamics of a team changes dramatically.
Okay, interesting. That's awesome. I believe that as well. How did you get here? What experiences led you to one, love innovation, and two, realize that the team is such an integral part of it?
So I'd say in each one of my experiences in startups or big companies, I always became the right-hand person of a leader and really cared deeply about effective leadership, effective teams, right? In a way, avoiding the things, the outcomes that we don't want, right? How do you avoid burnout? How do you avoid a team that is not performing at their highest level? So, and I led a team of 100 at one point in my career, but a team of 30 of the highest performing, folks on the planet. And it's leveraging things like the teachable point of view, right? As a leader, learning as fast as you can, and then also trying things. So one of the things, I tried years back was radical candor, right? Read the book, great concept, and I'm like, I need to teach my team this. So we have
Yeah.
a way to operate, right, with feedback, direct feedback, caring deeply about someone. And I was scared as a leader. I'm like, what if they tell me I'm a bad leader, right? There's always that risk, but all of a sudden it became how we operate as a team, the language, that we use with one another, and really lifted the way we perform. So I'm always seeking tools and techniques and learnings that will advance not only leaders but teams as well.
That's awesome. Did you have a leader who inspired you to kind of go on this endeavor?
Yeah, so I would say it was the greatest gift someone ever gave me. So it was someone from IBM Global Services. I worked in a startup with him. Just so you know, previous to that, I worked for Intuit Innovation Labs, and I had a monster boss, and I wasn't performing.
Monster's a bad thing here, not a good thing.
Yeah, monster's a bad thing, actually. Yeah, but, and I was not performing at my highest level, and she taught me that. So ended up working for a startup, with IBM Global Services. This great guy, Joe Gagnon, and he taught me the power of learning fast and applying faster. So a good example would be there's a concept called real win worth it. and he said, Ed, we need 10 million of investment. We need to go to our investors. So I learned that structure. I deployed that structure, and he taught me that learn fast, apply fast, and go teach that. And we did that almost 1,000 times. And that actually became my methodology, I would say, for success.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So he taught you this thing. How did you ensure that as you went and did this 1,000 times that you stayed aligned with the deeper goals and mission of what you're trying to do?
It's a really great question. So I would say it, one of the best leaders that I worked for would enter a room and say, "What are we solving for?" And that actually became the no other way to say it, like the thing, right?
Yeah.
And it could be, you know, so I hit a point managing my team where we doubled it. So we went from 15 to 30. And someone said, we've lost our ethos, right? We've lost, we have so many new team members. This team was founded, the team was called Fusion. Fusion was founded on, the original founders, you should say, I could say.
Yeah.
And then it evolved to a point where people lost the meaning of it. So what I did is I got the whole team together and I said, let's reinvent Fusion. Let's recreate it. Everything from, what does it mean to people to what is our vision to what is our future. So, a long way to say understanding what you're solving for and then almost working backwards in a way, right? So we're solving for we've lost our ethos all the way to we want to, recombine the team. We want a beautiful vision for the new team, and it can be anything. As a founder, you always have these ideas of what it should or could be, but it's really the team that matters.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. How do you ensure that as that team grows, those people align with not only, the bigger ethos of what you're trying to do, but like the day-to-day culture and values of the team?
Yeah, so I think probably all the simple things, right? Are you listening to
Yeah.
people? And are you enabling them to contribute at their highest level? Are people being seen, right? So I think the simple things really, really matter. And it's interesting. I'm going through leadership interviews now, and my goal is to get to 100. I'm up at about 40 now. And one of the concepts that keeps coming up is artificial intelligence, but probably not what you would think. Some of the commentary I've heard is in the age of the machines rising, we actually need to become more human. And I've heard that from, 10 leaders so far. And it's just fascinating to think about, right? So I think the human side of things, we now need to amplify because we're seeing so many technology changes,
Yeah. That's fascinating. Yeah, I think about that a lot that, we try to like automate everything and both from a like business perspective and also from a personal perspective, we try to automate lots of things. But when we automate away certain aspects of our lives, we remove the meaning. And we've ended up, I mean, we've like automated entertainment and all these things, we've like automated dopamine and you sit there and now like you're like loving life as you're scrolling and then you put down your phone and you're like, wow, I feel horrible. Like, what's my life's purpose? What am I doing? My relationships aren't great, like all of these things. And so I think about that a lot as, what are the useful ways that we can use AI? And I mean now it's AI, but it's always been technology. Is how do we use this and enhance humanity instead of removing it? And it's a unlimited worth problem to solve because I think as more of our jobs get automated and optimized, I think we're going to have more time on our hands, and people won't like that unless they figure out a way to live their life with technology that brings actual happiness.
yeah, and I mean, it could be the inverse too.
Yeah.
Meaning, you said when you put your phone down, you felt horrible, but I'm sure when you go take a hike or go on the beach
Yeah.
or whatever the outdoor things that you do, you probably feel a lot better. But I think you're getting to a really important point because one of the things I learned from leaders is that the power of connection, right? And part of it was that as leaders start to rise, they have less and less connection with people because the expectation is higher that should know what direction is. You should know what the specific subject matter expertise within that area, but then sometimes you don't know. And that's what leaders said. It's lonely. I feel disconnected. I don't have a support system around me. So the inverse should be true. I have this concept of, wow, what if we had a leadership lab that we surround someone when they're just promoted, and it's about creating those connections, right? For them, it's really enabling them to reinvent or reimagine who they are and what they're doing. So a lot of the aspects that you just talked about, the connection part really triggered it for me.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, okay, so you've interviewed about 40 leaders so far. You're going for 100. What's the question? Or do you have a series of questions you're asking? Is it one question? How do those conversations go?
It's one question, and I consider myself a pretty good ethnographic researcher, but you kind of want to have that open-ended question that you introduce and then see where the conversation goes. And the question is, it's very simple. It's, in the area of leadership, what are the greatest challenges you see? And some folks will say, give me a little more context on that. Or some folks will go right into it. So just learning fascinating things from leaders.
That's cool. Have you Okay, so pretend you haven't talked to 40 people. What would your answer be? Obviously, you see an acute pain because you've started a company to solve it. I'm curious what your answer would be. And that's really to stall so that I can think what would my answer be?
No, I love it. And I'm now biased by all the folks that I talk to. So I would say, I think because of my background, a struggling leader and not knowing where to go next. And, you know, I guess the reason I say that is when one of my fortune jobs at United Healthcare Group, I led a team that was an innovation team, and we would get with leaders that had a really big problem to solve or a really big opportunity. And I think you know, how do you get out of, in a way, the endless meetings? How do you get out of, I call it serial idea processing. So it's like call, meeting, call,
Yep.
email. Months go by, nothing happens. How do you get everyone in a room and get the best out of them and get the idea moving or that big problem solved? So I think it's, almost like stalled leadership, I think would be my answer to that. And how do you unlock it, unleash it, get incredible things done in the world? So I think that would be my answer.
That's awesome. It As you were saying that, I was thinking, oh, I've worked in, we were at a Fortune 5 company at the same time. It's like when I was there, I participated in a town hall that it was like supposedly 300,000 people watched it. And in my mind, I'm just like, that's a ridiculous number. How do you do anything, like across the whole organization? And then I've been in companies where, it's been two people. And so that idea of stalled leadership, I often think of, kind of on more of a philosophical level, like, you can either be acting or being acted upon, like, proactive or not. And the more a leader, in my opinion, is somebody who is consistently choosing to act, even when that acting is okay. I have to figure out what the heck we're doing here, or I have to figure out what we need to do, and some of that is, um, you know, stumbling and like making decisions that may not be the best thing, and owning it. I think when when I think of, okay, what's one of the biggest challenges that leaders face across the board. I don't know if industry matters as much, but like organizational size agnostic, um, I think is being authentic and having integrity,
Yep.
all while doing what you have to do. Because um, a leader, right? Their job is to know what they're doing and to lead people. And so, but then at the same time, I mean, if somebody comes and says, "Oh, I always know what I'm doing," I'm like, "Cool, red flag. I don't want to work with you because you're a liar." And but striking that balance of how do you help people recognize, hey, it's actually okay to not know everything that you're doing, and pushing forward with it at the same time without doing things that make them lose their confidence in you. This last weekend, I was on a road trip and was reading is fiction, listening to an audiobook. And they're talking about this character who was the leader, and that it really, the thing that unlocked kind of the problem solving was actually her turning to the group and being like, "Hey, I have no idea what we need to do right now." And then it allowed everybody to say, "Oh wait, like let me engage, my problem solving, and really unlock the group." And so I think by being super authentic and having integrity where you're able to, people trust that you're going to do what you say, and they believe that you have the best intentions of what you're trying to do as well. That allows people to level up often when then they're able to try new things and see, hey, am I good at this? And if they fail, they know, hey, I'm not going to be punished for messing up once. And so it's a little bit of a winding idea, but
No, I have two comments. One is that um, talked to a incredible venture capitalist in Silicon Valley a couple of weeks ago. What he said is it's in line with what you're saying. Is he said, I don't trust startup CEOs that have it all figured out. What I want to see is what direction are you heading in? And he said the best ones actually say, here are the risks that we face and why we could fail. And here's how we're going to mitigate that, right? So it's to your point, it's not being afraid to put that out there like, hey, we believe, we have an incredible idea, but it may fail. And I'm willing to actually keep going forward. And that's how the VC actually makes his decisions around investments. And I think the second point that I wanted to make, another VC that I talked to, I said, what are the biggest problems in leadership? And he said, the moral dilemma. And I was like, say more. It was just an incredible, comment. And, I'll give you an example. I have a good friend that's in a startup company, and he said, hey, we raised 20 million. I knew I was going to pivot, but I couldn't tell an investor that because it would have shook him. So instead, I took the money, I pivoted. They were angry, but, the end of the story is that his pivot worked, right? So, you have to think about that, when you said integrity, what is integrity, right? And what's the
yeah,
drill down on it? And is, the moral dilemma is probably somewhere in the middle, right? Of high integrity, hey, I need to make a hard decision. I know it's the right decision. And then, there's blatant, things that we won't talk about, but it's just an interesting idea around integrity, I think.
yeah, that's fascinating. We as we got started and we talked with a couple of VCs who were interested in investing, and we recognized that a lot of the thing to raise is, hey, tell a really good story and pretend to be as certain as possible even when you're not. And so that ended up, we decided to bootstrap because we were like, actually, we don't need to raise millions and millions of dollars when we're not 100% confident that what we think is the world changing thing right now will be the thing that we're doing in 6 8 months. And so that's fascinating. So as you're interviewing people, what's the most fun part of that for you?
Think not knowing where people are going with their thoughts or ideas. And then, listening. I'm a very big solution person. So like
Okay.
listening for signals, and I call them weak signals, right? If you're a futurist, you look for weak signals, which are what are they saying? And then what do they actually mean? And what's behind it? So I think that's the fun thing for me is, I've been thinking about, what are the antidotes to these, weak signals in a way.
Sure.
So, one of the things that I heard is creative leaders are blocked, right? And we talked about that a little bit, and that's I think my earlier comment around stalled leadership. But the antidote to that is giving people permission and psychological safety to explore, right? And to your earlier point, how do you enable the best in people and getting the best out of people in a riskless environment? So that's what it says to me. So I look for antidotes to all these leadership challenges, and that's I'm kind of a builder, I'm a fixer, I'm a, how do we solve this thing type of person. So that's what's
Yeah.
the best thing to me.
Have you I almost asked a really pointed question and I was like, we don't need to bash our former employers. Have you ever seen that work? Like have you seen the magic, where you do have um the riskless innovation. I R&D was kind of there was a couple years where it was really magic for me. Though I think I was in a unique position coming in from like, we were viewed as like the favored child coming in off of this acquisition, kind of like, hey, here's a leash of a couple years to figure things out. Yeah, and then I worked at a incubator that we had a similar promise, but it was never withheld. It was, the markets changed a little bit and they're like, oh wait, actually, you don't have 3 years to get to profitability, sort of a thing. Where, in closing, I'd love to hear, where have you seen that magic?
Lucky enough, I ran a team called Fusion, and it was magic for 10 years. And all the things that we aspire to, I think, as leaders, so like creating the room for psychological safety. I used to ask folks, one question, and it's, if you were on my team, I'd say, in just entering the team, I'd say, Jacob, what do you love? And what I was after is what you wanted in your life. So it might be, well, I love my dog. It's like, oh, he wants more time, at
Yeah.
home to spend with his dog. Or, hey, I want that title, I want that promotion, or whatever. It could be anything. And I would go after that hard for anyone. And it became this like deep trust system of a team
Yeah.
that we all knew we were looking after one another and after each other's best interests. It doesn't happen often. So I think you used the word magic. It is magic when it happens, and we knew
Yeah.
we were in magic, and we just tried to keep the magic going.
That's so awesome. Yeah. When you are helping people get what they want without some ulterior hidden agenda, it creates some beautiful, beautiful relationships.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ed, for chatting today. I'm excited for you to keep talking to more of these leaders, and I am excited to learn from whatever you learn eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna share it with folks. I'm happy to share with you, and I think it's really important. I think we're in an incredible age of leadership, and I think leadership is stuck by everyday business, and we need to think differently. We need to reimagine, right?
That's awesome. Well, cool. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Jacob.